Hello, I'm Susan Schultz. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Northern California in the United States. And my blog is Sea Ranch Creations. And I'm going to be sharing with you today some ideas on how to create backgrounds for your cards using dyes, blending brushes, and ink. And so today I really want to share with you this amazing new bundle called Happiness Abounds. It's just incredible. The flowers are beautiful and the sentiments are just great. And it comes with a set of dies, blossoming happiness dies. And here's some, it allows you to cut out, to create your own flowers by using the stamps, and you may cut them out with the dies. But you can also cut out incredibly beautiful designer series paper using the dies. And so the die I want to be working with today is also a part of this set. If you cut it out, you get this beautiful, intricate arrangement of hearts and leaves, which is just beautiful. But I wanted to experiment with doing something a little different. So hopefully, you'll join me today and we can get started. So the first, this is really basic and you probably have done this before, but I just want to share with people who maybe haven't had a chance to experiment with this. So the first thing I want to do is I know that the part that I want to have as my background is going to be 5 inches by 3 3/4 inch. So I went ahead and cut my cardstock to be that size. You could do this with any size cardstock. I just want to secure it to my workspace. And I'm using this really awesome tape. You can use any kind of removable tape, or you can use, I don't know where my Post-it notes went to, but you can use Post-it notes. That's fine too. But this tape is called Post-it Labeling and Cover-Up Tape. And it has been fantastic. It works really good holding your dies onto your plates when you're cutting. But it also works really well when you're trying to either mask something or to attach something because it comes off very, very nicely. So you can get this at any of your paper stores. Okay, so for my first step then is to secure my paper. I'm just going to do it on 2 sides because my paper is not going to be moving that much. And then I'm going to select my die. So this is the one I've decided to use. And I'm going to I'm just going to lay it out the way I want it. And so it's a little bit difficult because this doesn't take up the whole space, it's a little difficult to attach. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little bit of it coming off the edge here. And I'm just going to secure it on that edge. And again, I'm just going to be using this Post-it tape. Okay. So once I've decided on the die, I want to select the type of ink I want to use. And in this case, I'm going to be using the Melon Mambo. I love this color. It's one of my favorites. And it also is one of the predominant colors in the designer series paper. So I don't know if you've used the blending brushes before or not. It doesn't take much to get ink on the blending brushes. So what I typically do is just make a smooth, light layer on the blending brush from the ink pad. But I know I don't want this to be particularly dark. So I'm going to brush off some of it here on my scrap piece of paper. And then I'm going to hold my fingers down. I'm going to move this out of my way. And I'm just going to gently make circles and rub the ink in. And again, when I feel like I need some more, I'll just repeat the process over and over. And it's easier to put just a little bit on to begin with. You can always go back and make it darker. But once you have dark ink on, it's really hard to get it off. So you'll notice that I lifted this up. I want to make sure I get that little corner that the adhesive is holding so that I don't have any white spots up there when I'm making my background. So again, so I'm just going to come down here and again, just keep making that circular motion and make it as dark or as light as you want. Now, I want to make sure that this edging comes into play here. I want to make sure that this edging shows up in my background. And so I'm going to come over here and just ever so slightly go off the edge of the die so that that will be there. I don't want to cover up the whole thing because I'm going to be, because this is a smaller die, I'm going to be moving this die around so that I can change the orientation of the design across my cardstock. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that color. I've got some edging here, a little edging down here. Okay. All right, so now I want to remove, well, first of all, yeah, I want to gently remove, I'm going to leave my paper there, but I'm going to remove the adhesive that's holding the die down. And I want to gently lift that up. And you'll see there's a lot of excess ink on the die. So the way I handle that is I'm just taking a piece of paper towel and I'm just going to wipe the top of it off. And you can see we have a really nice little design here from brushing over the die. Okay, so get that cleared off. Doesn't have to be perfect. All right, and so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my die down again in a different orientation. And again, I'm going to hold it down with some tape, some of this Post-it note tape. And the reason you're doing this is you just don't want it to move, because once you start to color, you don't want the cardstock to be, the die to be moving, because you'll lose the pattern that you're trying to get. And again, just nice little circles, brushing off whenever I re-ink. Putting a little bit on the edge here so my design shows up. Okay, I want to make it a little darker, I think, because my other area looks to be a little darker. Also, you can do this so that you have like the ombre effect as well. You really have a lot of variety that you can do with this technique. It's really fun. You could also do multiple colors just using different blending brushes. So really, it's just a fun technique. Okay, so again, I'm gonna hold the die down with my finger, gonna remove the tapes. Gently lift it up. And again, bring my paper towel over to wipe it off. And you can also have it damp. If you find your ink's not coming off very well from the die, you can also use a damp paper towel. You just want to make sure that it dries before you put it back on. So I'm noticing that I have a little bit of a white spot here. So I'm going to just hold this down and put a little ink over here. just to dust that off. Okay, and the last, so then for this, I'm going to place this on here one more time, again in a different orientation. Let's see, maybe. And again, I'm going to tape it down. And here, I'll probably put another piece of tape on, because this is more off the die than off the cardstock than on the cardstock. All right. So again, I'm going to ink up my blending brush. Okay, so this is going pretty well. All right, it's sort of like, it's just really fun to see what design comes up as you're making these. And again, I'm just going to pull the tapes off that are holding the die, going to lift the die and wipe them off. Now, what I'm noticing as I'm looking at this, I can actually just put this over here and clean it up a little later. Okay. So here is my background. What I am noticing is it's a little bit light in here, but it's okay because I know the card that I'm going to design with it. So now that I have created my background, again, I'm going to use a part of a clean piece of paper towel, and I'm just going to lightly rub across it just to make sure there's not any ink that's still on here. And then I'm going to use it to create my card. So let me show you the finished card here. So this is the card that I created. You'll see that I did a background just like the one I just demonstrated for you. And then I decided to use this beautiful designer series paper, the Hues of Happiness. And you'll see, just move this out of the way so I don't get it. So you'll see that I've cut out, using the dies, I've cut out different size flowers and some different leaves. But look how gorgeous this paper is on both sides. Here's another sheet of this paper, which is just incredible. And again, more of a background for the back. Here are some really nice colorful strips of flowers. And again, another incredible background. I'm thinking I'll use this with a scrapbook page. This will be really fun. Again, these are some flowers that you can, cut out using the dies in different color arrangements. And again, a really bolder background color. And some other color flowers. Some of these can be cut out with the dies and some of them could be fancy cut. Fussy cutted. And again, I love this background. This is really gorgeous. And here's the last sheet with a really dark, rich background, which I think is just beautiful. And again, another sort of watercolor effect. So that's exactly what I did. I used the dies to cut out the flowers and leaves from the designer series paper. I added a sentiment with Happy Birthday. I used the stitched rectangle dies to cut out the sentiment. I used some glue and some dimensionals to get some different heights on the card. And I used this awesome new in color ribbon for the sweet sherbet. And it's just a perfect color. even though it's for the sherbet in color, it's metallic and just worked perfectly on this card. And then I always like to do something for the inside of my card. So I used the stamp, the flower stamp, and stamped it in the Melon Mambo color. And I haven't decided who I'm giving this to as a birthday card. And so I'll put a different sentiment in the inside once I make that decision. So I wanted to share with you, I played around with this as well. So in the same set, in the same die set, there are these really beautiful border pieces. And so what I was originally envisioning is using the border pieces, this one particularly, to make a border all the way around. So let me show you. It didn't turn out as well as I wanted to, I think because I was trying to rush. And this one maybe is even too light for you to see. But this one, you'll see that the stitching came out very nicely. And then I used the blending brush to, while the die was still here, I used the blending brush to blend it in. So I think that with a little more practice, I'll be able, let's see if I can, I'll be able to make this the way I wanted to. But it didn't turn out as well as I had hoped. And so I decided to use the other die for this presentation. Okay, so here's another example of one that I made earlier. And since I have a few minutes, I didn't finish making these into cards, but I wanted you to know that you could use this for anything. So I used the waves dies from the Waves of Inspiration, and did it. I used both the cloud dies and the wave dies. I literally taped the clouds. I rolled up the tape, this Post-it tape. I rolled it up and put it underneath the dies and attached them to the paper before I began. And then I put the larger die, wave die here. And so I did the background in balmy blue. And then in the wave, I used the new Parakeet Party ink as well as Bermuda Bay. And so I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I'm envisioning putting some seagulls up here and having a sediment here, but just haven't had a chance to finish this one. I also played around with one of my card groups has asked me to do the Simply Succulent bundle for our next card class. And so I decided to play with this magnificent die for that. And again, I used the Parakeet Party color, and you can see just how beautiful that turns out. And this particular die was very easy because the die filled up the whole cardstock. So you just attached it to the corners and you could blend it in any color that you want. So I hope this has been helpful. I know I have been enjoying using this technique, and I hope you give it a try. If you do, please post some cards on the catalog lunch party. I'd love to see them. And thank you very much. Again, this is Susan Schultz from Sea Ranch Creations. And thank you so much for joining me today. Okay, happy stamping. Bye-bye.